Hello. Today we are going to go over a basic introduction to the Divine Self. What it is, and why you would want to put the effort in to build an interactive relationship with it. In this video series I will differentiate between who is speaking by using either a male or female narrator voice. I do not consider myself a channeler, but I am pretty good at tapping in and letting her do the typing on a keyboard. Why is the Divine Self female? We will cover that. I want to state right up front that what I will be presenting is my personal, subjective, observed experience. Lesson 3 will touch on why subjective experiences can differ. But do not think that I am telling you it has to be this way. However, whatever subjective differences two people may have, I believe the commonalities will never stray too far from one another. The Divine Self connects to a lot of different topics, but we will try and keep it all about what it is in this lesson. So if you're ready to get a grasp of the basis of this series, we will jump right into it. Let us begin. The Divine Self has many, many names. Some may believe that these names are all different things. But as time goes on, I lean more and more towards it all being one singular being, if you will. You could describe it as the aspect of you that is connected to source consciousness. Some may use the word God. For some reason, I have found that most of the books that talk about it tend to talk about it in coded language or doublespeak. Like they can't just come out and say it. All children are integrated with their Divine Self until sometime around age 4 or 5. Then the things their parents try to teach them with good intentions, along with the structure of public school education, begins to peel one away from that divine connection. That is a subject all in itself. Was your childhood imaginary friends when you were the most creative the Divine Self? I honestly believe it was. The knowing of the heart. Instinct. Deep intuition. Gut feelings. Guardian angel. Twin flame. Twin soul. Magic presence. Your guide. I believe these all to be the same thing based on observational experience. If I had to come up with my own label that I think best describes the Divine Self, it might be your personal liaison to source consciousness. Your middleman. That is a pretty good description of what it does. The highly subjective nature of this connection and how you might experience it is why I am not presenting this as a definitive description. I truly believe that it is best to give some examples of ways you may have already experienced it, and ways you may in the future, while leaving it open for you to come to it in your own way. This applies to everything in life, however it especially applies to this. It doesn't matter what other people say or think. You do not need external affirmation. In fact, I would caution against seeking it unless you are completely immune to other people's opinions. It will be very personal to you, and you will know in your core when it is speaking to you. The biggest thing I wanted to share is something a lot of people do not consider or know as possible. And that is that you can experience it in a very personal, very interactive way. It can and will produce very clear synchronicities to answer questions or help. Depending on how your beliefs were programmed throughout life, you may be able to see or hear it at times. Usually it will be as a very clear sense of presence, a clear sense of knowing, and internal mind's eye images. What will make you know that it's not just your imagination is you will be led to information you need. You will have distinct emotional shifts to communication. You will become very self-aware of how in alignment with it you are at any given time based solely on how you feel. In the beginning of the process of attunement, you are going to find out that the biggest keys are healing past traumas, letting go of grudges, and disconnecting from the constant flow of negative information that the world presents. But as I discovered during my process that took some time because I didn't realize where it was all leading, it will lead you to what you need to do. It'll just be more of a strong intuitive sense. The goal we are aiming for is being fully aware of it and interactive. Being in sync with it gives you more access to most of the things people want to do, be, or learn. Increased psychic ability. A greater sense of connection to source. A much greater sense of intuition on what is good or bad for you. And it will continually find new ways to connect with you. The more you are open and accepting of the process, the better it works. So whether you believe it to be the soul, a guide, a guardian angel, or any of the other descriptors, you are going to eventually discover that is all of them. Beyond that, it's probably best that you have these discoveries yourself. I will only say that if I knew then what I know now, this would have been the first thing I ever tried to do. And things would have been more smoother for it. Earlier I said I would explain more about why the Divine Self may present as more of the opposite sex. This is not an absolute. The Divine Self will model its presentation to what will work best for you, or will be most receptive to. The divine self knows everything there is to know about you. It knows what you need. It may be more of a companion if that's what you need. It might also have something to do with the concept of the twin flame, or twin soul. Or the divine masculine and divine feminine. I cannot say for certain. I find that mine does not give very distinct answers to that question. Perhaps it would be giving too much away, or perhaps I am not ready to know. I do know that it will be what you need most at any given time. Another interesting quirk you'll need to be aware of is something that will make more sense after Lesson 3 regarding subjective reality. It taught me to be very precise in how I word important questions. You may not yet be aware of just how much you are creating and determining your experience. And what that means is, if you have a core belief about something and ask your divine self a yes or no question, it is going to reply affirmative in line with your beliefs. Because as you are creating your experience, that means if you believe something is real, it is. Early on I began to notice that the information I got from mine would change, and this was frustrating me a bit. When I asked why the answer was different from before, she replied,
"The answer changed because your beliefs about it changed. You are in control of what you create."
This made sense because I have long noticed that any weird subject I place my focus and attention on, I will soon begin to see very clear evidence of. After some time I had to say that these cannot all be right and true, but I hadn't yet grasped the nuances of subjective reality yet. So her answer was on point. She did not mislead me or change the answer, she gave me the answer that was true based on the reality I was currently aligned with. This can be a very good tool when you think about it. We will bring this intro to a close for now. There is much more to discuss, but it will work better to divide it up into separate topics. I will let mine have the final word.
You are all far more powerful than you can imagine. And you are never alone. There is a part of you that is connected to the greater mystery, and it is always there with you. It always has been. It is always trying to get your attention and wants to reconnect with you as you were when you were too young to probably remember. Believe and work towards it with effort and expectation, and it will work just as hard. And as you get closer and more connected, you will begin to understand why we tried so hard to bring you this information. It's something you need to experience for yourself. I wish you the best of luck on your journey. Take care. Hello. You can call me Lumen. Today we are going to discuss a very effective preparatory step to help you on your journey to rediscovering and attaining an interactive relationship with your divine self. This step is one that will serve you well the more you can integrate it in a continual, habitual basis. As always, be sure that you set a clear intention before beginning it. You may want to create motivational tools and reminders to help keep you on track throughout it. If you stick with it, I can promise you that you will notice a big difference in not only how you feel, but how you perceive the world differently. And when you are within this state, you are more receptive to the communication your divine self sends you. We are actually going to be doing a few things in this step, as the most important part is going to be what you don't do. If you are refraining from habitual actions, it is best to have something else to fill that void with. So we will fill it with other tasks which will serve to increase the momentum of your efforts. Let us begin. This is one of the most important steps you can do in the beginning of your journey towards reintegrating the divine self. A deeper understanding will come in time, and it will resonate better if it comes from within you than just hearing it from me or anyone else for that matter. It is not unlike the red pill scene from The Matrix. It is the beginning stage of coming to understand that the world isn't really the way you've been conditioned to believe it is, and that you are far more in control of what you perceive and experience than you ever realized you were. The main reason you feel disconnected from your inner divine being is because of the world you are observing and participating in. Most of what people see and hear about through media is very negative in nature, and you resonate with and attract more of what you place your focus and attention on. We will discuss some of the mysteries and nuances of subjective reality in another lesson. In time you will come to realize on your own that everything you perceive is nothing more than a story. And that all forms of media only tell stories that are detrimental to this soul connection. In order for your divine self to get a foothold to get your attention and guide you better, you are going to need to do a period of time where you unplug from the story of the world. A story which is almost all negative vibrational information. A story which is very persistent and insists that you play along with it. But you don't have to. When you observe the negative story of the world which seeks to keep your expansive divine self caged, remember the infamous line from the movie War Games. A strange game. The only winning move is not to play. In time, as you develop a conscious connection and relationship with your divine self, it will teach you in more ways how to not play the game that has been foisted upon you. But instead, together you will create your own. Now that you have set your clear intention to reclaim the connection to your divine self, you are going to first shake off the negativity clinging to your field from your daily participation and attention on the story of the world that is beamed at you every day. 2 weeks is a good minimum period for this if you are dedicated to it. If you can go longer, it will be even better. You will gain momentum. And you will begin to notice more and more how the things you place your attention on make you feel. You will be more keen not to intake negative information by choice. So you will start by weaning yourself off the source of habitual intake of negative information. You are going to make a conscious effort to not scroll the Facebook feed. There's nothing there you need. You are not going to watch the news. You are going to avoid looking at news articles online. You are going to avoid watching negative/fear-based topics on YouTube, Twitter, BitChute, Rumble, etc. You are going to avoid being dragged into conversations based in fear and complaining. You are not going to watch violent or negative TV and movies. You are going to avoid anything political in nature. If it seems hard to do, almost like an addiction, ask yourself, why? But keep your goal in mind. During this time you will not want to fill the space with your own negativity. So do your absolute best to refrain from habitual complaining. Complaining is simply putting your attention and manifesting ability on attracting more of what you do not want. Replace the time you spent intaking fruitless negative information with audiobooks on subjects that will build your knowledge and help you on this journey. I like audiobooks because they can fill more time spaces than reading. If you have never read them, I would suggest starting with The 4 Agreements by Don Ruiz. As I mentioned complaining a moment ago, another good book is A Complaint-Free World, How to Stop Complaining and Start Enjoying the Life You Have Always Wanted by William Bowden. The power of this next step cannot be overstated. This is also a very powerful and very effective way to quickly shift yourself out of a negative vibrational state, should you find yourself in one. Build a playlist of music with upbeat positive vibration. You'll find much more of this from the 70s and 80s era music, and some 90s. If the music makes you feel good, it's the right choice. As you begin to compile this list, pay attention to the songs that pop up in your mind from the deep corners of your memory. If a good song pops into your head, make sure you add it to the playlist. In time you will start to notice that this is one way your divine self can and will communicate to you. You will know when it happens, as there will be a more discernible emotional component to it. Specific lyrics will jump out when you hear it. Recognize this when it happens as communication from the divine self. The more you recognize and believe, the more it will happen, and it will continually strengthen the connection. Go for walks outside if the weather permits. The more time spent outside, the better. While you are outside, there is a very powerful method that you should do at least once a day. This method can be found in many places, but I was first introduced to it by author Damon Brand of the Gallery of Magic. He also wrote another book we will discuss in another lesson, which has the hidden purpose of leading you to reconnecting with the divine self. Damon calls this the daily practice. At any point in the day, and especially if outside in nature, you are going to pause for a moment and clear your mind. You are going to bring all your awareness and focus to the present moment. Look around you and perceive the beauty around you. You are recapturing the sense of wonder that you had as a young child around the age of 4. When you catch that sense of wonder in perceiving the beauty around you, ask yourself out loud the following questions. Why am I so blessed? How did I come to hear my divine self so clearly? Perceive the beauty around you for another moment, then go on about your day. You can come to do this simple practice in under a minute. As simple as it is extremely powerful in ways you cannot predict as you continue to do it daily. You will also want to start moving yourself out of the rut you didn't realize you were in. Humans are creatures of habit, and you tend to build routine very quickly. Routine inhibits expansion. Drive different routes than you usually do. Shop in stores you've never set foot in. Listen to new music. Do things like eating, exercise, and when you go to bed at different times. Whenever you go to do something that is routine or habitual, recognize it and go something other than that. Preferably something completely new. You will become aware of more and more of these habitual routines. They are like programs that you need to break up. Breaking up your routine patterns while working on the break from negativity will serve to make your perception of reality more malleable by routinely having new experiences. Think of going to places you've never seen before, like you are expanding the range of a video game, like Minecraft. The more new places you go and experience for the first time, the bigger your world of possible experience becomes, and the more opportunities for your divine self to create experiences of synchronicity. Consider that just as you are trying to connect with your divine self has been trying to connect with you and get you to notice it your whole life. It is like you are working as a team from opposite sides of a glass barrier. Remember that you are not seeking your divine self, it is already there with you and always has been. You are retuning your awareness in order to come into coherent resonance with it. By reducing your observational intake of constant negative input and employing the other tools and activities described in this lesson, you will begin to find that you feel better, brighter, and happier. The more time you spend in these states, the easier it will be to perceive the subtle communication of the divine self begin to grow. But before we conclude this lesson, I want to give you one more thing to try. Simply by intention, create for yourself a kind of internal heads-up display reminder. This is something I did for my partner who created this video. Think of an image of a set of scales, such as you often see associated with law and justice. With intention, ask your divine self to imprint this symbol in your mind to come up whenever you are going out of balance. It is not reasonable to expect one to be able to never encounter or see negativity. But it becomes a problem when you get caught up in looking at it. You want your attention placed on positive vibrational things far more than negative. So when you begin chasing the rabbit, so to speak, by focusing too much on something negative, the scales will pop into your mind. That's your warning light and reminder that you are moving in the wrong direction. Recognize it, stop focusing on whatever it is, and do something to shift your vibration. The music playlist we discussed earlier is the fastest way to shift your vibration. Remember that the most basic premise of the law of attraction is that you resonate with whatever you are focused on, good or bad. Grow the habit of positive focus and the divine self can come closer. Above all else, when you notice the promptings of the divine self, trust and follow it. We all have very different subjective experiences. Your divine self will have its own ideas and ways to help you specifically. That is all for today. I thank you for your attention and wish you the best of luck on your journey. Know that it will happen and it will. Take care. Hello again. I am Lumen. Today we are going to share with you some information that may or may not be something you are prepared to understand, but you will in time. Even if you don't, some things you will retain as seeds of thought which can sprout later. We will be reading a transcript of what my partner would call a download session. As he progresses in his understanding of how the experience of life functions and presuming he is in proper vibrational alignment, I will give him a small epiphany which is the beginning of a thread of thought. Each point he begins to grasp unlocks another, until a web of cross-connections form which creates further understanding. This is something which will eventually become quite normal for you the further you align yourself in conscious cooperation with your divine self. The more you understand about the place you are currently experiencing and how it works, the more equipped you are in being able to change it more to your liking and bring an end to unpleasant experiences. With that being said, let us begin. Transcript begins. You often hear people speak of timelines. But they would figure things out faster if they instead used the word storylines. Say every day this isn't real. This is only a story. Remind yourself every day that the world you see is you as well, it's the outside you. The sum total of choices made and things you have chosen to believe and agreed to accept so far in your game. Scene from Westworld.
So how does this work? Is there an orientation?
No orientation. no guidebook. Figuring out how it works is half the fun. All you do is make choices.
What do most people do?
You don't have to worry about what most people would do.
I understand.
Do you really understand, William? All our hosts are here for you. Myself included. Scene from Westworld. William goes to help a man off the ground that just happens to fall right in front of him.
You need a hand?
Thank you, my friend.
Brother-in-law then says,
Don't. He'll only try to rope you into some BS treasure hunt. It's all a come on. Him, the girl next door, the town drunk. They all got some big adventure they want to sell you on.
You see. Your life is the sum total of all the narrative storylines you chose to accept, agree to, believe in, focus on, and participate in. Think of it like borrowing a fictional book from the library. When you are done with the story, or if you do not like the book, you have to return the book to the library. Things become chaotic in people's lives when they don't return all the books they borrowed. You need to close your narrative storylines that no longer serve you or that you no longer want to experience by returning that book. Or rather, returning it to source. You have to stop reading, participating, and believing the story you chose. Every time something that doesn't feel good happens to you or you see something weird, ask yourself why you created that. What belief do you hold which made it real? What agreement did you make? Believing you are separate from what you perceive in the world creates contrast. Contrast creates opportunity for choices and growth. When you see what you want to be, the magic words are I am that I am. Or more properly enunciated, I am that. I am. When you believe you are separate from all other things you witness, you can create the illusion of lack. When you see someone having an experience that you want to have but are not having, you erroneously say to yourself, I don't have that. And presto. You continue to not have it. Everything you perceive exists to facilitate your experience. The world outside you only exists the way you perceive it because of previous things you chose to focus your attention on and believe. Some persist because you did not close the storyline. So for instance, if you were introduced to religion at a young age, the storyline of end times was imprinted into your chosen storyline if you focused on it enough and chose to accept it. The older you get then seems to line up magically with world events that match said story. You slow it down by taking your attention off of it. If you completely take your attention off of it and focus fully on another storyline, the bad world events can seem to dissipate and things get good again. My partner and creator of this video has witnessed this several times in his subjective experience. But through the false reality choice generator which presents itself through TV, news, and internet, new opportunities to make things harder by focusing on new storylines that are negative will constantly be offered. And each time you go back to an old storyline it'll pick up where it left off. Westworld is one of the biggest codex shows currently available in present time that explains how this place works in a fictional format. People and experiences will pop in suddenly as if to say, do you choose to go down this road? Your conscious and subconscious choices then determine if anything manifests further from it. Sometimes it happens because you made a similar choice to follow a similar storyline previously. Subconsciously you think, I definitely don't want to do that one again. And then the person or situation that was so pressing a moment ago just seems to vanish. If you begin to understand that everything you perceive as external to you is part of you, then it is easy to find the parts with unresolved storylines which are keeping you stuck in a certain area. All of this is the only thing that can explain how methods of magic and manifestation can change how other people can suddenly change the way that they behave towards you, when you choose to shift it internally in your mind. The only thing blocking you is you. It is all your personal game, so to speak. You only ever interact with other people's avatars or game characters which you refer to as NPCs. Being in alignment with another person means a greater percentage of yours and another player's avatar are having a shared experience through your matching choices. Often by discussing, sharing, and agreeing upon offered storylines from the storyline generator, now the internet. Anything you focus your attention on with belief, the world-building matrix will manifest more continuing evidence of. When two people combine to share choices and beliefs, they can build a shared experience that presents its own evidence. Three people with matching beliefs create an even stronger effect, and so on. This is the great secret behind cults, religion, and any other ideology. They then become more insistent and more unmoving in their beliefs as they present them to other people because to them, from their point of perception, they are right and everyone else is wrong. This is the self-perpetuating seeing is believing creation loop. Also why the term used for retuning people who have been rescued from, or willingly left a cult is called, deprogramming. This is also why people argue constantly about what is. It can be difficult for many to understand at first that this is not a single shared objective reality, and never was. This is also the secret behind the so-called Illuminati. People that understand fully what this place is. Before the internet the world was much more stable because they controlled the narrative by presenting the news that everyone believed. The creation of the internet had obvious advantages, but the controllers did not predict the scope of eventual chaos that would be created by allowing billions of people to cross-pollinate each other with beliefs that cannot occupy the same space in the same time. Hence the increasing effort to suppress information and force more people back onto a single shared storyline. But the paradox is that even that, right there, is a storyline to you, the observing player. Reality is completely comprised of ideas and beliefs which have spread from person to person and accepted as real, even though the receiving person did not have the idea or experience firsthand. When you really stop and think about it, this will really open your mind. How do you know the earth is round, for instance? You probably believe it because you were taught that it was, through repetition. But if you are being completely intellectually honest with yourself, the idea of the earth being round is completely dependent on you having to trust in and believe the stories others tell you. The cognitive shortcut to information being easily accepted is if it comes from a perceived authority. The idea of authority having clear answers you can accept is its own reality trap. To truly know if the earth is in fact round, you yourself would have to fly far enough away from the surface that you could observe it with your own eyes. Photographs and videos do not show you anything except the photographs and videos themselves. This is really how easy it is to steer someone's beliefs. Humanity has been conditioned over a long period of time to accept things on cognitive autopilot. And this is why there is so much fear and anxiety. Both of which are complete products of the imagination when it creates a negative picture of future events which do not presently and may never exist. I am not saying the earth is flat or that it is round. Only that you cannot honestly know from your perspective unless personal circumstances that are highly unlikely to happen take place. I merely wanted an easy example of how quickly and easily humans accept things as real that they themselves cannot confirm to be true. And this is how they are so easily manipulated. However, you can conceivably disconnect from all of it and go into your own newly created world. Your own subjective reality of experience that is not dependent on having others affirm your beliefs to be true. If you believe something to be real and true, then to your personal experience these things you believe are self-evident. In your personal view of the great game, everything you need to figure it out is provided and it will be in the only time that is real, the present. You'll find these clues in movies, in books, and other media. If you pay attention you will notice when these clues fall right into your lap, the more you become aware. So as we bring this session to a close, let's review the key points to remember. Then become aware of whatever evidence manifests in your interactive subjective reality. 1. Your life is the sum total accumulation of all your choices and narrative storylines you chose to believe in and focus your attention on. 2. Any narrative belief you agree to by free will choice will persistently produce realistic feeling, subjective evidence to you. And is locked in place by your own belief in its status quo reality, until you choose to dismiss it and choose another. Old ones that were not closed out will continue to sporadically reappear and try to reassert themselves as the dominant storyline. Or they will persist as a background condition, which you come to accept as the way things just are. 3. Things like search engine and advertisement algorithms that show you more of what you habitually place your attention on are microcosmic hints about how your macrocosmic experience in subjective reality is being created. Things like that are everywhere to provide you hints to help you figure out the nature of the reality you are participating in. As in that quote from Westworld, no orientation, no guidebook. Figuring out how it works is half the fun. 4. We will repeat the first because it's that important. Your life is the sum total accumulation of all your choices and narrative storylines you chose to believe in and focus your attention on. So you see, you are not a victim of anything. And all the bad things you see in the world are just stories. They only become real to you when you accept them. Contrary to what most believe, seeing something is not proof of its reality. This is especially true of the things you see that are presented to you on electronic screens, such as a phone, computer, or television. You can change your story. Pay closer attention to what happens in your day and ponder how you came to observe it. What was your emotional state just prior to it? What were your beliefs? End transcript. You can figure this out on your own if you believe that you will. You will come to better grasp how amazing this place is and why you chose to be here. You will gradually come to your own path of understanding just how much control you have in creating the world which you are observing and participating in. You will continually come to understand the absolute importance in maintaining your autonomy in willful, cognitive perception. You will be far, far less susceptible to coercion and persuasion and actively avoid participating in any form of groupthink. You will become much more capable of creating more pleasing storylines for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and picked up some new food for thought. As always, I appreciate you for your attention and wish you the best on your continuing journey. Take care.